Welcome to H2K Infosys. H2K Infosys is a e-verify business based in Atlanta, Georgia, United States. We provide 100% job-oriented, instructor-led, face-to-face, true live online software training programs. It also includes access to Cloud Test Lab with software tools. We provide live project for you to work on. We also provide assistance with mock interviews, resume preparation and review, and job placement assistance. H2K Infosys is trusted by so many students across the world. H2K Infosys provides world-class services in IT training with real-time project work for corporates and individuals, special IT training for MS students in the United States, software design, development, QA manual and automation, performance testing and maintenance, IT staff augmentation, job placement assistance, and tech support.
From JSP to servlet. So any of you have doubts in the life cycle? In the life cycle of the JSP, how it works? Sorry, could you please repeat?
You said JSP destroyed, right? And if you see the diagram above, we are converting this JSP to servlet in between while it's servicing. So we go above, here request and response. So it's got converted to servlet here in JSP service. Now at the end, it's destroying the JSP. So whatever convert to servlet, it's again going through a servlet lifecycle.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
So initially the restriction of the service thing, the JSP as such, it's not the request is handling by JSP. The JSP condition to the servlet and the servlet handles the request.
Neha,
Yes.
Neha, can you explain the above diagram for the life cycle? The one before, not this one, the one before.
This one?
Yeah. Can you explain this one more time? That how is that JSP container? We have to have a server for that. Like how that's working?
Yes, it's part of the server. We don't we don't do a JSP engine installation of it. It's part of, we have it as part of the server. So whenever first thing we have to deploy the web pages in the container or a server, right? And whenever we send a request to it, what happens? The JSP first gets converted into a servlet.
Okay.
You see, in the transition phase, we have a JSP file, right? Let's say, for example, we have a JSP file, hello.jsp, right? So first, whenever someone says, get me hello.jsp, right? So whenever get me hello.jsp is, the browser is making a request, right? It goes to the container and the container reads the content of the hello.jsp. You see, the second step, it reads the content of the hello.jsp and it generates a servlet class.
Okay.
When it is generating the servlet class in a JSP, we have the normal template, the HTML code, and we have Java code also as part of the JSP, right?
Yes.
So the template code is converted into, the println statement. And the Java code is, of course, rendered as a Java code, right? The Java code that is inside the JSP, it is Java code in a servlet also. In that way, after reading the hello.jsp, it generates a servlet class. Which is nothing but a servlet class is nothing but a Java file, right?
Right.
So it generates a .java file, which is a servlet. And when you have a Java file, the Java file has to get compiled, right?
Right.
Whatever the requests are getting executable, it's a .class file. So the first step, the Java file is converted into a .class file, and that class file gets executed. And it returns back, basically the servlet is the one, the generated servlet is the one which handles the request.
Okay.
So, and the response is from the server is given back to the browser in the form of HTML, as HTML content.
Okay.
And folks, if the request is successful, we get a status 200 status as like the request is successfully processed. And folks, when we get 404, whenever I say, I'm requesting for hello.jsp, and the hello.jsp is not available on the server, right? The result is not available, it returns a 404. It's like different HTTP status codes. Depending on the status code of the response, we understand if the request is successful or how is it processed. So different status codes have, each status code has a meaning. When it's 200, it is successful. When it's 404, the result is not present. So when there's an internal server error, it gets 500.
So do we need to configure hello servlet in web.xml?
No.
Okay. So it maintains its own web.xml kind of file servlet.
It internally maps, it's not kind of mapping with the URL pattern. It's a servlet that is associated with the JSP, right? The servlet, when we do the servlet call, is based on URL pattern, but here it's more related to a request of a JSP page, right? But yes, obviously there should be some association that is internally maintained, for sure.
Okay.
Any other doubts in the servlet lifecycle? So we have discussed the JSP is used to generate the dynamic content by having Java code inside a JSP file, right? So we call that kind of a syntax, like, as a scriptlet. Inside this, we can have any Java code. That whatever the code that we could write in the Java class, like declaring variables, using them, or calling some functions. You can write methods, and everything here in a scriptlet. So scriptlet can have any number of Java statements, like a variable or method declarations or some kind of expressions. So, and the JSP files are saved with extension .jsp. In a JSP file, we usually have the HTML content as well as the Java content. So let's say this is the HTML page. This is the content of an HTML page. So I have some HTML tags, which is the head, the body, and if you see inside the body, I have a script. And I'm saying when someone logs in or view this results, right? You want to give the IP address, their own IP address. So say your IP address, and we are getting the value from the request. When you say auto-println, it gets printed to the, or it gets rendered in the JSP page, but the content of this, right, it's dynamic. So let's say when Rajesh logs in, it prints the IP address of her system. And let's say if Manoj logs in, it prints the IP address of Manoj's system. So this specific content, is dynamically rendered depending on who is logging from, the IP address of the system from which they're trying to log in. So this syntax is the scriptlet. This is what we call it as a scriptlet. And the JSP declaration, inside this we can have variables, but in general when we are declaring a variable, right, we have this declaration syntax, which is an exclamatory mark in the syntax. So this is the syntax for a JSP declaration. Or instead we can use a JSP declaration, or we can use the syntax as well for JSP declaration. First, currently now we're just learning on how to put Java content. First, it's scriptlet. This takes everything and everything. Like any Java code can go inside. The declaration is specifically doing variable declarations. Like you can declare any int variables or any kind of variable that you want to use for it.
So basically, JSP declarations are, they're not necessary, right? Like we can put them inside the regular Java expression.
Yes, we can.
Does the JSP depend on a class, like a class which is pre-existing, like the methods which are written or variables defined in a pre-existing class, or we can do that in the JSP as we are writing? And,
we can use the existing classes, or we can write new methods and everything in the Java content. Let's say there is already used class, right? We can import the class in a JSP and we can use that class. Usually when we write a Java class, right, we can just write some code, or we can use the code that's already written, right? Let's say we have a class that's already declared, right? Let's say we have some collection classes, array list and all those things. Those are already defined classes, right? If we want to use them, just like in a Java class, we can import them and we can use them in the JSP. Or we can write new code in the JSP also.
Okay.
Like we can write new functions inside a scriptlet. I can write a method in a scriptlet.
Okay.
I can write a new method, or let's say I can import a class and I can access the functionality of the class, like calling some methods on the class, right? As I have given an example of an array list, we can use array list in a iterate through an array list and do all that in a scriptlet.
Okay.
So, and the expression element is basically if you want to render some value of an expression, right? Whether it could be a variable, just a variable, or some kind of an expression. We use this expression syntax equal before here, and for declaration it's exclamation. Or we can use the JSP expression. These are different kind of syntaxes that we actually use. See, if you see in the previous example, right, we just printing the date here, right? But whatever, some value, we can put it in an out.print, right? Whatever we want to print, we can put it in an out.print, or we can simply use this expression to just get the value. It just renders the value of the expression here. These are JSP expressions. So when we say out, it's an implicit object. We don't use it. So there is a concept, there are some objects called as implicit objects in JSP, right? Why do we call them as implicit objects? Because we don't create those objects. Here, folks, they're saying out.println, right? From where did we get this out object? We haven't created any object, right? Let's say in Java, you want to do something on a different variable, there should be an object with it, right? So there are some objects that are implicitly available in a JSP, which means that they are available, and we don't need to create them. Even without we creating in a code, the objects are available. Those objects are called as implicit objects, and out is one of them, and out of is one of them. So we can write it using the out.println like this, or we can use the JSP expression to render the value of an expression like that. The syntax is this. You can just put anything here, like, as one which you are saying request.get remote address, you can put it here. It just renders the value of an expression out here. So it's a HTML page wherein we are rendering the dynamic content using some, using the scriptlets or the expression, the JSP expression. And then we have the ability to write comments in Java, right? So we have some syntax to write a multi-level comment, and we have some syntax to do a single line comment. Thirdly, this is the way wherein we specify a comment in a JSP. This is the syntax of a JSP comment. And we have different JSP directives. Directives is basically it gives some directions to the container. So telling on how to handle, how to deal with during JSP processing, right? So I was saying a little ago that we can import some classes, right? So, we can, is in the page directive, we can say, we can import some classes, or, the page directive, basically, it depends, the page dependent attributes, like, whatever the dependencies that this page needs, like any scripting language, or, it needs an error page, or, the buffering requirements. And we have an include. During the translation of a JSP, if we want to include a file inside the current file, let's say I have some content in a first file. In a second file, I want to render the contents of the first page. In addition to that, I have some additional stuff, let's say I'm doing in the second page, right? Instead of duplicating the same things in the second page, we can include the first page in the second page using the include directive. So the page gets included during the translation phase. Like whenever a JSP is getting converted to a server, in the translation phase, this gets included. It's just like, getting and putting the contents of the page in the second page. It's not a dynamic inclusion of the content of the JSP, but it's just a static. It's not a static might not be right, but it just gets the content of another JSP and puts it in the second JSP. And we have a taglet directive to declare a tag library. Let's say in the taglet directive, if there are some kind of a custom tag, we specify it in the taglet directive, and those custom tags can be used in the JSP page. So in starting the JSP page, I use the taglet directive and I specify, let's say, struct has its own custom tags. And we have like the JSTL tags. If you want to use them, in the page, we specify it in the taglet directive. So these are different directives, the page, the include, and the taglet directive. So there are two different syntaxes. If we use this @ as a syntax for directives, exclamatory is for declaration, use equals for the expression, and the @ syntax is for the directives. So the page directive provides some instructions so that this JSP that is used in the processing of the JSP. So, and we put the page directives conventionally at the top of the JSP page. So we can specify the content, we can specify the error, and I was saying that we can, if this current page is an error page, we say is error page is equal to true. When we say error page equal to so-and-so page, right? Whenever some exceptions happens, let's say in the current page, it redirects to this particular page. Whatever is mentioned as the error page. We say content as text XML or text HTML, and if error page is true, if the current page is an error page, and we can say extends, that the generated servlet must extend a specific class, right? When finally this JSP gets converted into servlet. So if we want to make that generated servlet extend a specific class, we specify it using extends. Or if we want to import, as I've mentioned, just like we import classes in a Java file, we can import classes into a JSP also, because JSP is after all having the Java content, and it should have the ability to import different classes or different packages, right? So in the base directory, we have import. To import, we can do a wildcard import saying, it imports the entire package, Java or SQL package, or we can import a specific class. When it is comma separated, we can import any number of classes, or we can specify a package. And info is basically
just a second. Extends specify the superclass that generated servlet must extend. So, what kind of class is this? A class converted from JSP page, or is it a normal Java class?
We can specify a normal Java class here.
Okay.
We can specify a normal Java class.
Okay, so but it might create some problem because this class now since the content generated will be a servlet, and that already extends another HTTP servlet.
No,
and
it doesn't. It need not extend a HTTP servlet, right? So if you see like the hierarchy, what a HTTP servlet has, it extends the generic servlet, right? Let's say if I'm having, right, what's happening in the HTTP servlet, right? If you see this code, it's not a complete Java code, but if you see here, it extends the generic servlet, right? Let's say if I have a generic servlet here, right? If I have a generic servlet, so how this specific servlet is created, right? It is implementing the servlet interface, right? So the specific servlet that is generated, it implements this, and it has an ability to extend any other class. I understand your point of, in Java we cannot implement, a class cannot extend multiple classes, right? But
okay, so
servlet should finally be implementing the servlet interface.
Oh, okay. So so I got this. I think I got what might be happening. So it's like the JSP page which is getting converted. It implements the servlet interface and extends this class. Is it like whatever?
Yes. Whenever we say this, that's how the internal servlet code looks like.
Okay, got it.
Yes, your question is like it completely makes sense that it is saying extend, right? In Java, if it is ever extending the HTTP servlet, it cannot extend any other class, right? Because multiple inheritance is not possible in Java. That's what your question was, right?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. So, and in the info, we can specify some information, and we can access this information in the get servlet info in the generated one. It's more of some information about this page. And if the current JSP is thread safe, we say is thread safe is true. If it is not thread safe, we say it as a false. If the content of this JSP could be accessed by multiple threads without affecting the functionality, that's when we specify this attribute. So the threading model for the generated servlet is defined by this attribute. And when you're writing it, we specify the language of Java, of course, and with this session. A session attribute actually determines whether this JSP page participates in HTTP session. So the content is like, it's accessed by creating a new session. So when it says session is equal to true, in the servlet, it creates a new session actually. Using the get session method, that particular piece of code gets generated in the servlet when the session is equal to true. And whether the expression language should be ignored or not is specified by this. We're going to see about expression language, but this particular attribute specifies whether expression language has to be ignored or will be ignored. And same way, if you want to enable some scripting elements, we specify if scripting enable is true or false. And this is a specific kind of attributes that's part of the page directive. The most is the error pages, and of course we use everything, but the common use are like the import, the error page, and the threading model. And the include directive, it is used to include a file during the translation. Let's say I have a page which just prints out the person's address, right? So, and second page, the user enters some kind of his interest in the second page. So let's say in a page, we want to display his interest as well as his address information, right? So the address information, which is already present in the previous page, we just include that page, the address.jsp. Here, and let's say the final or full details.jsp, we just include the address.jsp. So we just say the file, the related URL, basically to the specific JSP. It could be in the same folder or it could be in a different folder, right? Usually in all the content, we have a header and a footer, right? And the content is rendered differently. So we specify, we include the header.jsp and footer.jsp. So in all the pages, when we include, let's say the footer.jsp at the end, that footer gets rendered in all the JSP pages. So that's a typical example where so in a website, usually the header or the footer is consistent across pages. So we don't have different code that's written. It's like a JSP, it's a single JSP page that's usually rendered across different pages of the website. And we have the taglet directive, and the JSP allows us to create our own custom tags. It allows us to use the custom tags. And when we are using it, we have to specify what the tags, the URI, the link to the tag, and we have to specify a prefix. Let's say I have a tag, I use it with a prefix. Let's say I have I'm specifying the URI of a struts logic tag, and I'm specifying the prefix as logic, right? So how do I use this tag? I use it saying logic colon, the tag is iterate, let's say. I use it logic colon iterate. But this prefix can be anything, right? When we are coding it, we can have the prefix as Rahul also, or you can have it as your own name as a prefix. But there's a notation that is followed across, and we edit it as a coding convention. But you can have your own prefix, and for the prefix we keep it. We specify it in the taglet directive. That prefix has to be used when we are using the tag. The tag should be used with that specific prefix. That's about.
Can you extend this? Can you extend this once more, the taglet directive?
Yes. So let's say I want to use a struts logic tag, right? So I specify the URI for the struts logic tag here, and the prefix that's followed across for a long. Sorry.
What is URI? Is it similar to URL?
Yes, it's a link on HTTP where we have. It's the information. It's a uniform resource interface. So it's a place wherein you can access that. That's an URI.
Okay.
And the prefix, we specify the prefix for the included tags, and this prefix is used across. Whenever we're accessing tags in that specific tag layer, we use the specific prefix, whatever we mention it here. This prefix is not like a stand. There's a convention that is followed, but it's not hard and fast.
So many of our students have given testimonials on how our training programs are. You will find them on kudzu.com and on our website h2kinfosys.com. On our website h2kinfosys.com, you will also find more detailed information on who we are, the courses that we offer, what each course covers. Also, if you're interested in a demo program, please register on our homepage on the left-hand side. Just give us more information about yourself and we will send you a link for a demo class. The demo class is absolutely free. Experience our commitment by just attending an orientation workshop at no cost. Our team of faculty and advisors are here to guide you with the right information. If you still have more questions, please feel free to call us. Call us at 770-777-1269. This is a United States number. If you're calling from the UK, call us at 020-337-17615. You can also email us at training@h2kinfosys.com or h2kinfosys@gmail.com. Thank you for watching our videos. We wish you a great career in information technology.